Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our new edition of Big Brother 25 live feed spoilers. This is the BB Zombie edition. We have to discuss the double eviction, the BB Zombie twist, which, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but this may be the most want twist that I can really remember. Why is it these guys? Like, let's just think about this. Well, there's some tinfoil hat stuff we can get into a little bit later, but it's just like this could have been Heisem. This could have been Izzy. I would have even taken Riley, and yet here we are, the two most just not likable people in the house, in my opinion. These are the two we're having to watch, see if one of them can stay.
The thing is I know that there's a lot of tinfoil hat
Yeah.
theories out there that it's like BB producers hold on to these twists until they think it's the right time and then they, put it out there. But I mean, I just don't really know about that. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me that this show or any show would go in there being like, okay, we have some twists and we could just throw them out there whenever we want to. They have some sort of a story that they are telling. It is a reality show, but at the
Yeah.
same time, they will still have stories that they want to tell and they will still have things organized. They're not just sitting back there being like, we could throw out this whenever we want. I think everything is mapped out on schedule and just happened to be that this is where it landed with two people who are unlikable, and now we're gonna have feeds that are just gonna be like, meh.
Okay. we'll hope that there's some drama coming up. It's just this twist feels like, other than the zombies, you're letting the air out of the show's tires for a little while. But before we get too much more into all of this, how this BB zombie twist works, the double eviction, all of that good stuff, join our Patreon. We have a link in the description below for that. Live streams are happening over there every single week. It has been a lot of fun to just dive in and discuss all sorts of Big Brother stuff with you guys.
Yeah, and hit that subscribe button if you don't want to miss any of our Big Brother coverage. And we're also just started American Horror Story. It is the spooky season, so if you're interested in that, hitting the subscribe button is the best way to support us.
Or if you just love zombies, we're doing The Walking Dead, Daryl
I
Dixon.
know, yeah. No, it's actually really good.
Yeah.
If you guys are like, oh man, I'm all zombied out, too much, Walking Dead. This spin-off, Daryl Dixon's actually really good. But
Yeah, it is.
this is Big Brother. So let's talk about Cameron was the first evicted in the double, and it was no surprise, unanimous. Cameron barely campaigned, which if you've been watching us for a while,
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of. Like, even if you know you're going, you never know. You might say the right thing to the right person that starts the ball rolling. But he knew that he was going, so he just barely did anything and rolled over.
Disappointing. Like, I've never been the biggest Cameron fan, but I would have appreciated more if he fought tooth and nail in order to figure out a way to stay in the game. Like, having, I don't know, a few conversations. It's just like that's just not it. And Cameron is, I feel like Cameron could just be Mr. Strawman for the amount of like strawman arguments he creates, and then makes it seem like everybody else is constantly creating these. Like, he has created this narrative now of everybody has been out to get him all season, when it's just like, Cam, you created this mess. You were the one who ratted out information to multiple sides. You're the one who has played a really bad social game. Like, he is the most like woe is me person for like a big physical threat that I don't know that we have sort of seen. I guess if this helps him sleep at night, I get good for you, Cam. I mean, you're a zombie now, so I don't know how much zombies sleep anyway.
So Corey won the double eviction HOH and nominated Blue and Jared, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, they're in a showmance. I know Corey's also in a showmance,
Yeah.
but it makes sense to get out a showmance. He doesn't have all the information about Suri and Jared, so he doesn't know that they're mother and son. So it makes sense that he would go after the showmance to break that up.
And so there was this possibility discussed during or before the double eviction that Blue and Jared could be on the block together. But during the double, Corey and Blue talked, and basically what happened here is that Blue said that if she won the veto and she wasn't nominated, she wouldn't use the veto to save Jared. So Jared would stay up on the block. That was sort of her pitch to make sure that she didn't get put up. Now, he seemed to be okay with that, but it seemed like the rest of his allies still wanted Blue nominated. I mean, because this is during the double, we don't see every single conversation that happens.
Yeah.
Maybe some of that will be shown after the fact. But, Blue and Jared are the nominees.
Yeah.
So Matt then won the power of veto, decided that he was not going to use it. And the benefit to Matt in doing this is it basically allows him to say to Suri that, hey, I was looking out for you in particular. You were going to be the replacement nominee. I didn't want that to happen, so I made sure that you were safe.
Okay, so Jared was evicted 6-1. Of course, Suri voted to keep him. Suri was emotional. It makes sense. I mean, she just lost Izzy, and then, her son's going out the door. But, nobody still really knows anything about, why that would be, that's the thing about it is Blue, as much as people have kind of railed on Blue about a lot of stuff, she's continued to hold on to Jared's secret, even on the block against him, she has said nothing.
I've gone back and forth in my head a lot about this. Like, should Blue have said something? Should she not have said something? And I kind of feel like at this point, she did the right thing. And I think it's just because if you have this information and you suddenly blurt this information out, I think there's going to be a lot of people who are like, well, why didn't you tell us before this? Why are you only telling us when you are in this sort of extreme danger? What other sort of stuff are you holding back on? It's something that, sure, you could use it in theory to separate Suri and Jared, but everybody already knows that Suri and Jared are really close. So I think the net benefit for Blue saying something is not that high. The only benefit is that we get the entertainment and fallout that comes with it. And from that vantage point, go ahead, Blue, say it. I will not mind.
No, there was no real advantage to that. The only advantage would be later on down the road that if she wanted to, talk about it, then it doesn't benefit her to blurt it out when she's in trouble because, yeah, people are going to be like, oh, okay, you've been sitting on this whole time. You're only using it now. Okay, goodbye.
Okay, we're going into now Walking Dead Zombie Twist Week. So Cameron and Jared, everybody's favorite players, they have found their way now back into the house. They came back late last night, and now they are going to be undead within the game all week long to the excitement of all the Big Brother fandom.
Listen, there are only 2 shows on Sunday and Thursday this week. There is no HOH. There is no veto. And one of them will be resurrected on Thursday. That's the week that's ahead of us, guys. These live feeds will still be here to tell you if any drama comes about or whatever. But I mean, come on, no HOH, no veto, no nothing. It's really just these 2 getting ready to play against each other to come back into the house. So it's kind of like a freebie week for the rest of the house.
This is just awful. And I'm not trying to dogpile production here. It's just, I don't understand the benefit of doing this. You sort of said it earlier, how everything is mapped out far in advance, and that's true. And it might be a symptom of Big Brother producers knew that they were only going to have 2 shows this week. This kind of interrupts the way in which they usually do things with the HOH and veto, and they had to come up with something else. But it's just this is what you guys came up with. I would have rather had the house vote on one of them to re-enter the game. I would rather something that actually involves strategy and gets the entirety of the house involved, other than basically us just sort of waiting and seeing for several days who between Cameron and Jared is going to come back. Or if nothing else, could you guys have kept some other recent evictees and had them also come back into the house and be a part of it in some sort of way? It's just the drama versus what we're actually getting is just, it's so small, and I'm just so frustrated by it.
It would have been really interesting to see the house having to come together to decide who to keep, because these are two people that they both just got out of the house.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these are two people that the house didn't want in the house. So, it would have been interesting for them to have to make a choice of who they actually want to re enter the game. But I mean, really, it's whoever re-enters a game is probably just going to go right back out again. So it feels like we're going to have basically, depending on who wins the HOH next time, 2 weeks of just kind of like watching Cameron and Jared go.
The schedule of this is so crazy because it's been like forever since Heisem left the game. But since Heisem left the game, we've lost Red, and then we've lost Izzy, and it feels like they're taking so unbelievably long. Okay, so here's the quick sort of fallout from some of what we have seen so far.
Yeah.
Jared came back in particular, clearly upset, tried to lecture Matt with Sari there, which should just be a real red flag to Matt. It's just like, why is Sari here to have this sort of showdown? And Jared wanted answers about the veto while it wasn't used. And then like from there, he later got into it with Blue because she knew more than he let on. And I know that strategically, the House isn't voting to put somebody in, but if they were, Jared's just like immediate confrontational nature. He's really defensive. He's doing some of the same stuff he was when there was that big argument with Corey earlier this season. It's not a good look for his game or to convince anybody of anything.
Okay, Felicia. Felicia told Sari that she was replaced in the seven deadly sins by Corey in America, plus that Jared's eviction was the plan. And Felicia later admitted to Jag and Matt that she said it to her.
I continue to love Miss Felicia just like doing the most, even on a week that does not require her to do or really say anything.
Yep.
She's got to figure out some things in terms of like where her place is going to be in the game moving forward. I mean, in that brief period of time where Jared was in the house and, Jared wasn't in the house, we didn't really get to see a lot of it, but who knows what other conversations are out there. But we know that Sari confronted Jag about his role in targeting Jared and just like talk this man in circles. And, Jared has really hurt Sari's game in a lot of ways, but Jag, despite what's going for him right now, he's still not a great Big Brother player. I'm sorry, Jag. You are my guy. I'm still rooting for you, but like your ability to contend in social conversations with Sari is just still not great.
Okay, so talking about conversations, there was a really interesting conversations between Cameron and Jared because, both of them are basically fighting to get back into the house. Only one of them's going to get in, but they've agreed to give each other information to help the other person if they return to the game. And, Cameron told Jared if he was evicted that he'd be next. He's taking a victory lap for being right.
This brings us back once again to Mr. Strawman Cameron, who Cameron will forget every single thing that he has been wrong about this season. I guarantee it. He's going to probably go on social media after the fact and be like, I was never wrong, because he will remember everything that he is right about, and he will like shout that from the rooftops. That is who we are dealing with here with Cameron.
Yeah.
All right. So how is one of them exactly going to return? And this, now we can really get into why this is exactly grinding our gears so much, because it's not a vote. There's already like this ongoing competition between Cameron and Jared, and whoever wins that over time, that person is going to have an opportunity to take part in something, a puzzle. It sounds like it might be on Thursday. There's not really a lot of clarity on some of this, guys. Like, we'll just throw that out there right now. But let's say, for example, this will be a good way to articulate it. Cameron succeeds in this first part of this ongoing competition. He can then choose whether or not he wants to take part in this, we'll call it a puzzle, this puzzle competition on Thursday. Or he can say, okay, Jared, you can do it. But the person who does this competition if they can complete it and quote unquote win, they stay in the game. If they lose, the other person stays. Like this kind of feels a little bit like Family Feud,
Hmm.
where you're like, do you guys want to play or do you want to pass? And you can sort of make that choice. But that is what we're waiting on, everybody. The opportunity to see which one of them will compete in the competition.
Okay, so there's some other sort of little tidbits that are going on here as well, which is that Corey, America, Jag, and Matt all feel like they have Bowie Jane and that they're a five. And Corey is really sort of the mastermind of this whole group. And Corey and America actually really want Cameron back. They feel like, he hasn't caused that much drama since returning and that he might be someone that they can work with.
I it pains me with every fabric of my being to give Cam like credit on anything, but he has done the right thing since coming back into the house. He's not really saying too much. He's not having the arguments that Jared is having. I mean, this I don't even think this is a tinfoil hat theory, but just because he knew he was going. He had a lot of time to process it.
Mhm.
Jared did not have any time to process it. I think it's much easier for Cameron to come into the house and be a little bit more low key at this particular point.
Yeah.
All right. So finally, we have like one of the last remaining alliances that was sort of a secret getting kind of blown up to the masses, and that was the group of Jared, Felicia, Sari, and Nicole. And that it doesn't really matter that much anyway at this point because we've already seen Felicia go rogue on Sari. Like this is not really that big of a surprise,
Mhm.
but we're basically at a reset with a lot of things in the game at this point, and that's why maybe something interesting can come out of the next week. Maybe some new bonds are gonna be formed. Maybe production will really amp up the zombies and do something that's fun to keep us watching and excited.
Yeah, I feel like they're still going to be doing their best to sort of plan for the next week, what could be coming up. I feel like some people in the house will still be making, like we saw with Corey and America, kind of be like, if Cameron stays, we could kind of work with them. I think there's going to be a lot of that going on to make sure that they're okay with whoever comes back in, because if they come back in and they actually win HOH, everything is bad for everybody else, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's still going to be some strategy going on this week.
Yeah, and like that's kind of what you said is what's going to make this most interesting is that both Cameron and Jared are huge contenders to win HOHs. Like these
Yes.
two have won a lot of competitions between the two of them. So even if you don't like them in the game, you got to schmooze them and you got to be
Mhm.
prepared for the idea that you're going to have to deal with them a little bit longer in this game.
Yeah.
All right, we will be back, of course, with more Big Brother 25 updates throughout this zombified week. So,
Yeah, and don't forget that Survivor's starting up next week,
yes,
and we're going to have videos here at the channel on that,
yeah.
and we're going to be having, as Matt said, live streams over on our Patreon talking about Big Brother and talking about Survivor.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you to all our patrons, and we will see you here next time.